you have an international perspective. Where does Canada rank in terms of the ability to do business?
Well, it's they're quite way back. There was a survey done just recently, and I just wanted to remember a few names, right? Because if it's more names, you wouldn't remember. But anyway, the survey was done that Canada had 100 bureaucrats per thousand people. The United States had 70 bureaucrats per thousand people.
Mm.
Japan was the lowest with 40 bureaucrats per thousand people. So we are way back, huh? Okay, and I'm not quite sure if this was municipal bureaucracy, provincial or federal, but I think it's much higher yet. So
Well,
we need a task force of retired business people, which could what is necessary, right? Yes, we wonder if we have a building, yeah, but if it's stamped by engineers that the snow load's okay, the wind load, you don't need all the municipalities to go over, right?
hmm.
I mean, we like it's the bureaucracy is and of course the government makes the rules so they could make the rules to have less
Hmm.
bureaucracy, right? And the
Hmm.
government is the worst thing because they hire more and more bureaucrats. I remember about 50 years ago, when the first computers came on the market, the slogan was if you got one of those computers, you could eliminate a total office floor. When you go in the big cities in Canada and the United States, you see 20 times more office buildings, high rises. What to do in
Hmm.
there? They don't make products in there. They have
Hmm.
regulations, and financial transactions, right? And the
Well,
same
they're
thing.
well, to your point, Frank, they're navigating the tax code, that big thick book
Yes,
you just showed us.
part of it. And furthermore, about 50 years ago, Wall Street was pushing business. You got to make more profits. And
Hmm.
on the other hand, unions were pushing. We need higher wages. So what
Hmm.
did business do? They went to China. Okay,
Hmm.
that's the worst thing we could have done, right? Okay, so
Wow.
we got to take a look at our governments. Governments can't fix the
Hmm.
problem, right? Because anytime a politician wants to come up with a with new rules, they will be defeated because they
Hmm.
can be criticized. And when I
Hmm.
look back in history, I think the greatest statesman or the greatest politician was Winston Churchill. Winston
Hmm.
Churchill said, before he died on numerous occasions, goddamn politics, he said, doesn't work. He said, we need a chamber of citizens in parliament
Hmm.
to balance out the politics. In
Hmm.
Canada, small business would be the chamber of citizens because they play on a level playing ground.
Well, it's a historic call that you're making here, as we reference Sir Winston Churchill and his wisdom and insight. But I like the themes that you're referencing is that we need to empower citizens, we need to empower small business to thrive. We need to get rid of that red tape and all the rest that really holds up entrepreneurship. And so on that note, your foundation is advocating a kind of a 7-point plan.
Yes,
And so I want to go through that plan a little bit. The first one is we need to balance the budget and eliminate the national debt.
in
How do we
20
do that?
years. So there's no chainsaw approach. It doesn't. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not. It's the system we got to change, right? The politicians are trapped in the system where they can't move. The whole thing is trapped where we can't move.
Hmm.
So I'm saying number one of the 7 point is we must eliminate the debt in 20 years. If we adopt an economic charter of rights where the employees can participate, we can wipe out the debt in a number of years. Okay, that's
Okay,
one.
so
Second
more of
is
a an incremental approach where you'd say reduce the spending by 5 or 10% a year, something like
yes,
that.
and the economic charter whereby workers can make more, they make more profits for the company. The taxes will
Hmm.
be higher because there'll be higher profits, right? Okay, so we got to reduce the debt in 20 years.
Hmm.
And I said as an example, if we have an economic charter of rights where workers can participate in the profits, we generate more monies, more profits.
Exactly.
We can then
Yes.
elect that. The bureaucracy should be reduced by 50% in 10 years. In a civilized society, I don't want to have scapegoats, right? Every citizen got a
Hmm.
right to find a job, whatever the openings are. So the
Hmm.
bureaucrats, I wouldn't blame it totally on them. It's the system. But anyway,
Hmm.
there'd be hiring freeze. No bureaucrat would be fired, but there'd be hiring freeze for 10 years. In 10 years, we have half the bureaucracy, but it still would be too high. It still be way too high. I would say when I started the Magna about 60 years ago, right, the bureaucracy, the municipality, they were helpful, right?
Hmm.
You had a permit within a week or 2 weeks, right? Okay. Here, when I built a new factory here where I going to produce the small electric cars, the factory was only half up. I got a bill in
Hmm.
the mail from the township, 1,900,000. So I called the township. What's that for? Well, that's that we give you that we allow you to build a factory in our township. Imagine that. Okay, we got haywire. Okay, so we got to get some common sense in the thing
Hmm.
and revitalize Canada, and we can do it
Indeed.
with small business. So I said, number two is we reduce the bureaucracy 50% in 10 years. We number three is we have a clear cut tax system,
Hmm.
black and white, where when you when you finish high school, you should be able to fill out your tax form, right? Number four, which is very important, we don't want to destroy free enterprise. So I divide companies below 300 people as small business and large company above 300 employees. Small business, they have pure free enterprise. If you, as an owner, when you start out, if you're not close with your employees, you won't make it. You gotta pay the one which wins, the ones which work harder and smarter. You gotta pay more than others. So you gotta do it what you have to do, huh? Get the
Hmm.
respect and inspire the employees. But when you get larger, usually the owners are not there anymore.
Hmm.
You got institutions running the place. They have no affinity for employees. This is
Hmm.
where it kicks in. You got to share. That's point five, principle five, where you got to share when you grow larger. But present large companies accept it, huh? Because it would create havoc, right?
Hmm.
You got senior citizens would have shares in a public company. If the government would say no, you're going to share it'd be all over the map. So I'm talking of small companies when they grow. The owners would love to share them. So number five is sharing profits. Number six, high school should stop at grade 10. Then students would be exposed to trades. Grade 11, grade 12, they would be exposed to trades. Look, the grown-ups, our responsibility is to bring knowledge to young people, right? So it'd be a win for the students because they'd be exposed to new knowledge, how to make things. And if you still want to go to university, fine, no, but you might have an affinity. You might like the trades. I mean, the highest paid people at Magna were the tradesmen, the tool and die maker. Okay. So they were, so a lot of people would like to do that, right? And
Hmm.
so you still can't go to university if you want to. So point seven now would be no Canadian kid should go to school hungry. That means breakfast got to be served. No
Hmm.
Canadian kid should leave the school hungry. That means lunch has got to be served. And by law, the food would have to be organic.
Hmm. So that is a very ambitious program. as you think about going from balancing the budget to reducing government and overhead, simplifying our tax system, enhancing free enterprise, sharing the profits, changing our education system to tilt towards the trades and away from universities, and of course, nutrition. So it's a very, I think, a very insightful program that you're advocating. And I think that one of the things that strikes me about it is that you're really turning the corner on a major challenge that faces our country, and that is Canada's productivity challenge. And I do have a clip here I did want to share with you and the audience to set the stage for our next conversation about productivity.
With construction robots, Promise Robotics is at the crossroads of the housing crisis and AI and understands the value in investing in productivity.
What's a dollar per square foot you spend, and like a holistic view, and start to look at how this you can monetize over the years, then you've got a pretty good business case to be able to actually invest in your productivity.
But many businesses are hesitant to invest, part of the complex web of declining productivity, with other factors including a large increase in immigration and global tensions.
In Ontario now, people make the same as they make in Alabama. We're falling behind all G7 countries. We're falling behind the United States. And in Finland, they make the same as us. They work less. So they're working smarter.
In an emergency, break the glass. Well, it's time to break the glass.
That's the senior deputy governor of the Bank of Canada in a recent speech, talking about our productivity problem. To explain what it really means, Carolyn Rogers used a very Canadian analogy. The same number of workers working the same number of hours will clear more snow with solid shovels that don't break. They'll be even more productive if given snow blowers. But for the most cleared driveways, invest in snowplows. Budget 2024 promises about $7 billion to boost productivity, the bulk going to AI and research investments. But will it work?
Entirely counterproductive to what they're trying to achieve.
The business community is frustrated by the new capital gains tax increase because when there's investment hesitancy, new taxes don't help. The government disagrees.
It will support investments in growth and productivity that will pay dividends for years to come.
Surprised, curious, shocked, dismayed people are that they would choose to go down that path.
It's not helpful to necessarily see capital gains taxation at this exact moment.
With some economists, too, questioning the timing of a new tax increase in an era of lagging productivity. Abigail Beeman, Global News, Ottawa.
So I know, Frank, you are very concerned about Canada's productivity. That was certainly one take on the issue, and it's pretty involved. But do you see any hope with the 2024 budget? Is that going to address productivity, or is it going to make it even worse?
Politics can't fix it. Politicians are trapped in a system, right? So I'm basically, we got 338 political ridings for the federal parliament, right? So basically, I like to see small business having a chapter in every riding, a board, and with members. And for a politician to be elected, the economic charter would have to be part of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. That's the only way out to get Canada back on the solid economic foundation. So those 7 principles got nothing to do with politics, but it's a must to straighten out the economy.
Okay, I agree with you. However, is the challenge, though, an ideological divide? When you think of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, when it was adopted back in 1982, one of the big issues that was left out of it, a significant hole, I would suggest, is there was no assertion of property rights, and they are foundational to any free and democratic society. Now, we have a long tradition of property rights, but that was excluded. And it's almost like we have an ideological divide where we have people that don't value property rights. Is that part of the problem, though, that we face in this country?
It's a philosophical divide and it's an economic divide because let's take a look at the facts, right? They have more statistics in the United States, maybe than Canada, but in proportion, Canada is reasonable the same. But in the United States, 1% of the people hold about 50% of all the wealth. This should tell you this is the big divide between the very rich and the working class. And that can go on forever. So, what we have, the world has always been dominated by the golden rule. The people which have the gold, the money make the rule. I don't want to be ruled by anyone. If I feel that strong, I should not be able to rule somebody either. So the question is, how can we dismantle the chains of dominations? Not by a violent revolution, by a revolution of the mind, by economic charters of rights. Look, it makes so much economic sense. Like without workers, you can't make a profit. So what's wrong
Indeed.
if the workers
Yes.
a percentage? Okay,
Yeah.
then you have a different society.
Mhm.
You eliminate a great amount of crime and hatred, etc., etc. Right? If
Mhm.
we eliminate poverty, that's what it's. That's why when you look at the war in the Ukraine, in Israel, it's all because the divide, huh? Okay,
Mhm.
there's hatred, there's crime,
Mhm.
we got to eliminate poverty.
So I like the theme though that you're emphasizing. We don't want to be in chains or shackled by the few, the rich. We also don't want to be shackled by a big government,
That's
bureaucrats who
right.
tell us what to do. We want to focus on small business. Your vision is about building up the middle class so people can thrive and prosper, and our kids can too.
My vision is to eliminate poverty. Okay, that's the
Mhm.
number one. Okay,
Mhm.
because where there's poverty, there's more crime, there's more hate, there's more emptiness,
Mhm.
it's okay, racism, so we got to eliminate poverty. And the
Mhm.
Human Charter of Rights, Magna is actually a forerunner, right? Because we had a corporate constitution. We called it
Indeed.
fair enterprise. The basic philosophy was the Human Charter of Rights alone is not sufficient. We have to fortify
Mhm.
it with an economic charter of rights. Economic charters of rights will lead to economic democracies, and economic democracies are the basis for democracy itself.
Without open discussion and debate, you're not thinking, nor are you free. Comment below. We'd love for you to join the conversation.